Welcome to the field of Bannockburn. Just before we start the proceedings, can I ask you all to put your hands together, a wee bit of appreciation for the police who made sure we were safe on the march. Thank you very much. About 20 years ago I wrote a song about the Battle of Bannockburn and I sent it to Radio Scotland. The producer phoned me the next day and said, "I've got your tape," because it was tapes in these days. He said, "I want to listen to it." He says, "I think it's great. It will never be played on Radio Scotland. It's far too patriotic." To date, I don't think it ever has. But I'd rather they'll sing it here anyway. This is my land, I stand beside my brothers. Each man here to face this day of destiny. We answered the Bruce, not for greed and not for gain. We fight only to be free. For days I have walked across the moorland, leaving far behind the glen where I was born. And a frightened crying woman carrying my child. I trust in God that I will live to hold my son. This day brings a Scottish dawn, and freedom is the right of every man. We give our all here today, so our children can say, this is our land, and we are Scotland's sons. Now we will face this day together. We may fear, but we will never run. And we will pay the cost, though many good friends will be lost. Tomorrow our flag will fly again. This day brings a Scottish dawn, and freedom is the right of every man. We give our all here today, so our children can say, this is our land, and we are Scotland's sons. On this Coxet Hill we gather to the Psalter. When we are long gone, our sons of sons will say, they stood behind the Bruce, not for greed and not for gain, but on this Borestone field they died that we be free. This day brings a Scottish dawn, and freedom is the right of every man. We give our all here today, so our children can say, this is our land, and we are Scotland's sons. This day brings a Scottish dawn, and we've taken all that any nation can. We give our all here today, so our children can say, this is our land, and we are Scotland's sons. If we die here today, we die for Scotland's sons. Thank you very much. Hopefully it won't be very long before I can actually stand here and sing on a new Scottish dawn as once again we proclaim our right to be a free nation and stand as equals with all the other countries in the world. I'm going to introduce an old friend who's been doing these commemorations even longer than I have. Would you welcome, please, from the Knights Templar of Scotland, Ken Shearer.
At these gatherings, it is common to open with words like ladies and gentlemen and all sorts of phrases like that. The one that makes me proud looking around the assembled company is, all I'll say is, fellow Scots, and I'm proud to be among your company. You have marched here, from here to the sacred field of Bannockburn, and most welcome. Over 7 centuries ago, 2 Scots assembled here under the leadership of the Bruce in the cause of freedom. Freedom for our native land of Scotland. That spirit of freedom, embedded in the hearts and souls of all 2 Scots, is alive today. You are its witnesses, you who are assembled here. Maurice, the abbot of Inchaffray that day, 1314, bareheaded and barefooted, walked among the Scots and exhorted them to fight bravely for their rights and liberties as Scots. His exhortations bore fruit. Skillful leadership and bravery under the Bruce, Scotland was eventually delivered from aggression and avarice. But we are not gathered here to glorify battle simply for battle's sake, nor to gloat nor exalt. We are here to remember a vital, critical event in the long struggle in Scotland's first war of independence. Significant was that year of 1314 and the long struggle for Scotland's independence, indeed for the very existence of our nation. The long years before 1314, Southern avarice had threatened our land. An oppressive foreign occupation under Longshanks sought the very submission and indeed the very destruction of Scotland. Freedom or slavery? The lawless posed that question, and as a true patriot pursued freedom, even under a savage, brutal, secular martyrdom. Until his last breath, the lawless believed in that truth taught to him as a young man by the priest of Dunipace. Diso tibi verum, libertas es optima rerum, nunquam servilis abnexu vivito villi. And you'll all agree with the translation. I tell you truth. Of all things, liberty's the best. Would never be my son with slavery oppressed. The Bruce answered that question and took up the crown of the Scots, leading those 2 Scots who firmly believed in the freedom of their nation. The struggle was not easy. The struggle was long and hard. But that struggle for Scottish freedom came eventually to fruition. Yes, a military victory was gained here at Bannockburn in 1314, but the political struggle continued. The magnificent declaration of Arbroath in 1320, and finally with the Treaty of Meath in 1328. Then, and only then, was Scotland restored to the recognised dignity of an independent nation. Prior to Bannockburn, from those days of that great period, was Wallace. During those days there were many dark and desolate times for Scotland. History indeed oft repeats itself. In Scotland last September, indeed we saw a dark and desolate time. But thankfully, for the soul of the nation, 2 Scots rallied, as they did under the Bruce. The month of May this year saw a victory we can liken to those of the Bruce. Yes, Scotland shook off the lies and desperate promises of her enemies and acted, as did the Bruce in 1314, as did all true Scots in May 2015. It may take some time to regain our independent national sovereignty, as it did between 1314 and 1328. But in the sober words of Thomas Muir, the younger of Hunters Hill, our cause is a good cause, and it will prevail. Yes, the faith, skill and courage of the Bruce and his army saved Scotland, and we honour those who stood firm here at Bannockburn over 700 years ago. What greater honour can we render to those who fought for freedom those many years ago? How can we honour them? That is to gain once more that same simple freedom, that freedom we look for today. We do not wish to betray that which is won here at Bannockburn. We have the opportunity, indeed the duty, to regain that freedom so dearly won. Building on earlier events of this year and the coming months and years, we as true Scots can be faithful to the generations of our ancestors honoured here today. Liberty. Liberty! Yes, yes and yes again, for freedom, not for ourselves, but for our children's children, so that Scotland can once again stand with freedom and dignity within the worldwide community of nations. My friends, fellow Scots, let us go forth from this sacred place, renewed in heart and soul, that we may again one day rejoice in our freedom. Freedom for our nation, for our land, for our people, under the beloved saltire, that the banner of St Andrew, yesterday, today, and forever. And thank you very much.
Can I get a pint of what you've had? I'd like to introduce a guy who's been coming to commemorations for many years. He's a tour guide in Edinburgh, and apparently a very entertaining tour guide in Edinburgh, so join him on his bus at some point. And it's about time that you got the opportunity to speak at one of these gatherings. Would you welcome, please, Colin Cargill.
Okay, thanks very much, Ted. Well, here we are to commemorate the Battle of Bannockburn. The sun is shining. Where could we be better? Isn't life wonderful? Yay! Right, I'm delighted to be able to come here to speak this afternoon on this most important occasion, the 701st anniversary of the Battle of Bannockburn in 1314. Congratulations to Ted once again for his organisation of this event. I'm not sure who goes back further, Ken Shirra or myself, but I've distinct memories of attending this event several times in the early 1970s, when we used to march through the centre of Stirling, and there was many as 20,000 people attending. Yeah. I think in these days we had a more sympathetic town council in Stirling. Hopefully that will be the case again. Yay! Although possibly not until the council elections in 2017. In the meantime, well done again to Ted Christopher for reinstating this event, and it's good so many of you are here today on this very, very auspicious occasion. I remember only too well the similar event last year, which I also attended, and which regrettably I remember for the barefaced attempt by the UK Prime Minister, Cameron by name I think, to usurp our event by deciding to come to Stirling in Scotland on the exact day of our commemoration to remember the 700th anniversary of Bannockburn. He could have chosen anywhere in the UK, but he chose Stirling as his venue to commemorate the centenary of the start of World War I in 1914. While I would stress that the World War centenary commemoration was of course a most worthy commemoration, which was marked in Scotland as enthusiastically as anywhere in the UK, but why, oh why, did he have to choose to come to Stirling, of all places, on that particular day? We all know why. It can be argued that it was a strategic move prior to the independence referendum to divert attention away from our commemoration of one of the most important events in early Scottish history. This is the same David Cameron who, prior to the recent general election, was saying things like, as the party of one nation, we will govern as one nation and bring our country together. Also, he said, we can rule as a one-nation government, and it is my duty to take this country forward. Sorry, Mr. Cameron, what you forget and what his fellow unionists forget, whether blue Tory, red Tory or yellow Tory, is that Britain is not, repeat, not a country or a nation for that matter. What is Britain? Britain is a political union, and a union that was put together in 1707, pre-democracy, by, you know who? The parcel of rogues, you got it. With the mainstream media continually churning out the Britain One Nation message, it is all the more important that we remember the history of Scotland, the nation. There are, of course, 4 nations in the UK, England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, who have all got their own individual history. We are here to remember that Robert Bruce was fighting for Scotland, the nation, and we must never, ever forget that Scotland is a nation. Perhaps the most significant part of early Scottish history was during the Wars of Scottish Independence in the 14th century, of which the Battle of Bannockburn, of course, played a prominent part. In my opinion, not too many Scottish history books are written from a Scottish patriotic perspective. One exception recently, I don't know if anyone's read it, Scotland's Future History by Stuart McHardy, very recently published, in which the author rather controversially disputes the description Wars of Scottish Independence, in which both Wallace and Bruce participated. McHardy makes the point that prior to these wars, Scotland was already independent, and the Scottish leaders were fighting to maintain Scotland's independence, which I'm delighted to say they were successful in achieving, and which is the reason we are all here today. There were, of course, 2 major leaders of the Scottish resistance movement 700 years ago, William Wallace and Robert Bruce. The Battle of Stirling Bridge in 1297 was the first battle in the Scottish resistance movement against the usurper Edward I, and which was led by William Wallace, liberator of Scotland, along with Robert Bruce, one of Scotland's greatest heroes. Incidentally, once again, congratulations to Ted on his being the driving force behind the installation very recently of the giant saltire. And the 3 lecterns at Stirling Bridge, which we saw today at the start of our march. I don't know if Ted has got the same effect on you as he has on me. Every time he starts the first few chords of I'm Coming Home, there's tears in my eyes. Okay, on to William Wallace. Regrettably, the fugitive Wallace was betrayed in 1305 and then suffered a brutal, barbarous and long drawn-out execution in London. A martyr was most certainly created, one who even today remains a potent symbol of Scottish independence. In 1306, Bruce was crowned King of Scots at Scone Palace, although there was no coronation stone, as it had been stolen 10 years earlier by Edward I in 1296 and taken to London. It was, of course, returned to Scotland rather belatedly in 1996, exactly 700 years later. This stone, the Stone of Destiny, is a unique emblem of Scottish national identity, and its return to Scotland, it can be argued, was by and large a defensive measure taken by the London government in light of the growing discontent with London rule in Scotland. which had been going stronger and stronger following the bold tax debacle. The credit for returning the Stone of Destiny is often given erroneously to Michael Forsyth, one of Margaret Thatcher's arch-lieutenants in Scotland, who happened to be Secretary of State for Scotland at the time, or Governor-General. For the strong anti-devolutionist and Thatcherite Michael Forsyth to be given any credit in this regard is rather ironic, to say the least, as he was possibly the most unpopular Scottish Secretary in recent times. Indeed, he got his comeuppance when he lost his Stirling seat at Westminster in the 1997 general election. Back to Robert Bruce then. He continued a guerrilla campaign as opposed to fixed battles against the English aggressors. The death took place in 1307 of Edward I of England, Longshanks, the Hammer of the Scots, which takes us on to the Battle of Bannockburn on 24th June 1314. A victory by the Scottish patriots led by Robert Bruce, a genius in strategy over the vastly superior army of King Edward II of England. The overconfident adversaries were soundly defeated, losing some 4,000 men. Edward had been endeavouring to free Stirling Castle, which was being besieged by Bruce's Scottish army. The rout of the English at Bannockburn decided the First War of Scottish Independence and triumphantly confirmed Bruce as King of Scots. His job was done. This was one of the most memorable events in our history, and as a result, Scotland was firmly re-established as an independent nation. The Battle of Bannockburn resulted in the triumph of the patriotic cause, a success so telling that the flame of Scottish nationhood was never, ever to be extinguished. Finally, it can be said that it is testament to Scotland's strong survival instincts that our nation still exists, albeit not our sovereignty, although significant steps have recently been taken regarding the restoration of Scottish national sovereignty by the fabulous, yes, the fabulous 56. Thank you.
I started with a song called Scottish Dawn, and of course it refers to Scotland's sons. It's no sexist, they just couldn't get sons and daughters to fit into the rhyme. Daughters as well, we'll include them. And it's great to see that there are kids here as well. I've been doing these commemorations for a long time, seen kids grow into great young adults. And it gives me great pleasure now to introduce a young person to speak, because back in 1314 the men died here not for themselves but for their children. When we eventually, and hopefully that eventually is not a long time, regain our freedom as a free nation, it's not for most of us, it's for our kids and our grandkids. It gives me great pleasure to welcome the daughter of the convener of the William Wallace Society, Mrs. Abby Stewart. She's one of the young lions.
As we stand here today on the field of Bannockburn, we think about the people that have fought and died for our independence. The people that thought, I want to get this opportunity for my children and grandchildren, and for the brave, selfless people that gave their lives for this country in 1314. Those 2 days will be forever ingrained in Scottish hearts worldwide for their bravery and courage. Today, we can think of Robert the Bruce and the people of Scotland who fought for the better of this country, and battled through the fear, and we can only imagine the thoughts they must have went through knowing of the victory that they had when the mighty English army had fallen, and Edward II was chased from Scotland by the Black Douglas, a defeated man. As we stand with our wife, daughter and mothers, we can only imagine what it must have been like for those women in 1314, as they would have not known if their father, son or brother were going to come back home alive or dead, but with pride burning inside. We are here to think of all the people that won Scotland its freedom, and if it wasn't for them or Wallace before them, we may have never had the Scotland we have today, and they will never be forgotten.
I think I can safely speak for everybody here that each and every one of us loves this country. We will fight for our freedom until it comes, but it doesn't half enable you to sleep well at night knowing you're going to hand it over to kids like that. It's going to be in safekeeping. The SNP have been mentioned a couple of times. It would have been nice if they'd kept their march going with 20,000 people coming here every year. But, having said that, they took a decision which is very hard to criticise because they've made tremendous inroads on our road to independence. They're still the vehicle that's going to deliver for us. So I'm not going to stand here and criticise the SNP for their decision. It would have been nice if there was 20,000 people here. But who are we going to go and vote for at the next election? We know. And on that note, I would like to welcome the leader of the SNP group on Stirling Council, Scott Farmer.
Thanks very much, Ted, and it's certainly very proud to be here today, and on behalf of the largest group on Stirling Council to welcome you here. And as the previous speaker said, come 2017, the Tory Labour cabal will be kicked out of Stirling Council once and for all. I think if Robert the Bruce, and as was alluded to, the fight was for our future generations, as is the fight today. If we look down and see the excellent campaign that we undertook during the referendum, cross-party, as a civic society, fighting for the self-determination of the Scottish people and securing the future of our future generations and our children, he would have been proud looking down on us and recognising a battle may have been marginally lost, but the fight will continue, and the beacon of light for the fight for independence will continue day in and day out as we go on from here. And we can reflect on the Master General in terms of Robert the Bruce and overcoming the odds and the role of the small folk, the gillies and the English fleeing the scene in the battlefield here today, and what a sight that must have been, but what a feeling of trepidation it must have been as well for those involved with overwhelming odds and superior armies against them. Well, we had the Union and the fight and the whole Unionist establishment against us during the referendum, and we also had it against us during the Westminster election as well. And we had a Commandant General in Nicola Sturgeon who never put a foot wrong and delivered for Scotland the 56 SNP MPs that will deliver for Scotland. I can today welcome Councillor Stephen Patterson, who is now the Member of Parliament for Stirling. Well done, Stephen, one of the 56. Show yourself. Yep. It is here today a time to reflect on Bruce and Bruce's contributions movement, but it's also a time to look forward to the future, to look forward to not if but when we deliver for our children and we deliver our country back into the hands of where it belongs. We will continue that fight, and that fight goes on, as I said, day and night. But what I will say is that every one of you is so important to give your heart and your soul in this struggle. We can be councillors, we can be MSPs, we can be MPs, but without you, we cannot win. So it's great to see such a good turnout here today, and I look forward to joining with you in the battle as we go forward to achieving our independence. Thank you very much.
Well done, Scott. And of course, one of the most important things on this afternoon as we come here is to remember the men who died 701 years ago. And I would like to think that we as a nation, Scotland, are big enough that we can say we are not anti-English. We may be anti-union, we may be anti-British, but we're certainly not anti-English. So on this day, as well as remembering the Scots dead, we'll remember the dead of the English side, many who were also good men, who were here because their lords told them to be here, and they didn't return to their wives, their sons, their daughters. It was every bit as much a loss to a family then, for both the Scots and the English, as it is to someone losing their parent, or their brother, or their sister nowadays. I had someone telling me recently that was just commemorating ancient battles that should be forgotten. Now that particular guy also turns up at the cenotaph, as I do, every year to remember the World War deads. What I had to say to him was, okay, tell me the cut-off point. When do we stop remembering them? When do they start being worthless? That doesn't happen. These men that died 700 years ago were worth as much as our brave soldiers who die today. So I'm going to ask Ken Shearer to come back. I know everybody here isn't religious, but some of us are. If you're not religious, then at least have your own thoughts at this moment as Ken offers a prayer for the men who fell.
Friends, let us pray. O God, who splendor shines through the whole of creation, pray that you pour down thy strength and thy blessing upon all who are gathered here today. Pray that that spirit which blossomed here in times past, 7 centuries ago, may be with us today, nurtured forever and unforgotten in our hearts and souls, and that all pass from this life near and hereabouts of whatever nation involved, that they also be never forgotten. Lord of the nations, unto thee we commend all gathered here into thy care, and the memory of all fought here. Especially we place our faith in thee, that thou may continue to be a guide and a beacon, honesty, truth, and social justice. That thou may continue to manifest thy care and protection over all assembled here, those who assembled here 7 centuries ago. In the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Amen.
Could I ask Irene to lay a wreath on behalf of the Society of William Wallace? I don't know if anybody else has any other floral tributes, but if you have, you're very welcome to lay them. Could I ask you now, please, to observe a minute's silence in memory of all who fell here, but also in memory of all who died in Scotland's name. Can I ask you all, especially those who were on the walk, do you realise how far it is to actually walk from Stirling Bridge out to here? This is Fraser McIntosh, who led the walk, piped most of the way. I even had to give him some of my water, he looked a bit knackered. Fraser McIntosh. Just want to thank you now for your attendance, for coming along. It's been a fabulous afternoon once again, as we remember. I'm going to finish the proceedings not with me singing, but with you lot singing. Scots wha hae wi Wallace bled, Scots wha Bruce has often led. Welcome to your gory bed, or to victory. For now's the day and now's the hour. See the front of battle and see approach with Edward's power, chains and slavery. Oh, if be a traitor knave, was he base as be a slave? What could fill a coward's grave? Let him turn and flee. And war for Scotland's king and law, freedom's sword will strongly draw. Free man stand, a free man fall, let him follow me. By oppression's woes and pains, by your sons and servile chains, we will drain our dearest veins, but they shall be free. Lay the proud usurpers low, tyrants fall in every foe, and liberty's in every blow. Let us do ordeal. Everybody! Scots wha hae wi Wallace bled, Scots wha Bruce has oft times led. Welcome to your glory bed, or to victory. Thank you very much. If you're making your way home, have a safe journey home. If you're joining us in the Tartan Arms for an evening of cultural entertainment, and a shandy, then you're very welcome to do so. The Tartan Arms will be open by the time you get there. They serve wonderful bar meals. The doors to the function room will be open as soon as Alistair gets there. And entertainment will probably start about 7 o'clock. And it's a fabulous night. For any of you who haven't been here to the Tartan Arms previously, it's a great night. You do have to put up with old Alistair doing a raffle, but that's just one of these things. He doesn't even realise I'm talking about him. Thank you very much once again. Be really nice if some of you thought.
Just leave that and then we'll go.